Hey, how you doing there? Now, there's a very special plant I wanted to meet you guys to meet. I have done a post previously quite a while ago on Instagram, but this one's going to be for a new revamped one for the website. So the plant that I want to introduce, which is very special to our whole family, we've used it so many times. It is just an all-round beautiful plant, plenty of healing mechanisms. I don't know about mechanisms, I don't like that word. Plenty of ways it can heal and work with us as people. And that plant is plantain. So these are a few different plantains. We've got the lance shape, plantago, lanceolata. Got another one a bit more mature. It could be a different species. This has a bit of fur on it, bit of hair. This one's very smooth. This one has a bit broader leaves, so you get the plantago major as well, and that's the broadleaf plantains. There's plenty of plantain species. These guys are all pretty interchangeable and can be used very much alike one another. So where could we start? So an overview would be plantain foremost probably is a wound healer. It is also a great respiratory herb. It is also good for the tummy and good for the urinary tract. Now I'll kind of go through and explain this video. It could be go for a little while because I'd like to cover these so we're clear on what's going on here. So we'll start off with the wound healing abilities. So there's, what do we got? A few primary ways that plantain really works, and it works kind of uniquely in the way for wound healing. It's very well rounded, if not the most well rounded wound healing plant I know. Now first point would be astringent. So plantains are astringent, which means they are toning. If you were to taste it, it'll give that green banana sort of taste on your tongue. It will, what that means to a wound, so say we got a wound on our skin here, and that if you have a little cut here, what that'll do is it'll knit the proteins of the skin a lot faster, which will be, it's kind of like putting a stitching it up kind of thing. This is a natural sort of stitch in a way, I guess. The other thing about this though is it is also mucilaginous. So we've got astringent toning, usually associated with drying obviously, and we've got mucilaginous, which is cooling, soothing and moistening. So it'll soothe that as well. But not only have we got that, we have also got the antiseptic sort of properties. So it'll also cleanse the wound, which helps with infection. But we've got one more layer, and this is the layer that goes throughout our system, as I'll talk about it. That is that it is also has the pretty unique ability to draw out infection. There's a couple of other things that can draw out. There's onion that helps draw infections or venom stings like that out. It's also clays, which are really good about that, and you could kind of combine them if you thought about it. Particularly the clay and the plantain would be great. So if you put them all together, that it is astringent, so it'll steal over the wound, but it's also drawing and it's antiseptic, so it's actually going to draw any venom or anything, any badness sort of up and out, and the antiseptic is going to clean it, and then it's going to be soothing for it, and it's going to seal the wound. And that's just like, and there's not much of a better combo you can get than that for a wound. It's just so well rounded and multifaceted. You know, that can be anything from a bee sting to a splinter to a burn. It'll work for, you know, it'll keep that burn clean. It will be soothing for it. Now if you were to do that, and if you're out in the field just like I am today, you'd probably just go like this, and you'd take one. We'll give you a good look. Actually, while we're here, let's look at this is a really good little key ID. See all this rib wart, see these ribs, these fibrous ribs through it? That, you can see that on the bottom, really evident. Then at the top, it's got little tiny serrations on some of them, and that, and you can see that we can pull it apart. See them fibers coming out, and that, There you go. That'll tell you that it's brought. But if you're in the field, you can do this many ways. This is the way I've used it most, and I think it's really, really effective. And that would be just chewing it up. Mixing it with your saliva, and say I have a wound here, plonk it straight on that wound, rub it in a bit, get that juice right on it. So, as I said, you can do it in, if you want, cleaner ways, which you could be boil up the herb a bit or bring it to a boil and then place it on there. Thing about this, you don't really have a boiler around you or anything like that, more than likely. That takes time. This doesn't. You can crunch it up, but really mixing with the saliva and breaking it up will really set them juices and let them healing enzymes or nutrients work upon your skin. You can also, if you need to, you could wrap it around a big leaf if you can find one, and then poke it through the end, and you've got a band-aid there, or you can just bandage it up over. Change that up a few times a day, and you should be well on your way to healing. So what we got next, if you can think about this, so we've just spoke about what it does externally. If you were to take it to your respiratory tract and everything, we can also see that it would be drawing. So an old cough, particularly one that is sort of kind of lax and dry, harking, and it feels like you've got something stuck in your throat. That's something herbalist Matthew Wood has specified with that. It's that feeling that you've got sort of a splinter in your throat. That drawing ability will help draw, if there's something there or not, it'll help draw that up. With that antiseptic, it'll also keep infection at bay to an extent. It will be pretty good for that. That mucous membrane, that mucilage that runs, we've got to say our mucus, particularly while we're in coughs and colds, etc., and that our mucus is always forming, trying to get up, trying to get that infection out of us. So sneezing and etc. So if we're putting new good mucus, laying it down, it's going to give us a lot of soothing. It's going to help our body out a lot, because we're adding a mucilage to our body that our body can really feel the benefit of that. So that's with a dry cough. If you had a wet cough, you'd want something probably dry and heating, and that, you know, you probably go ginger, chili, things like that, something like that. Elecampaign's a herb, something that's got a heating quality to it, energetic quality. If we were to move down to our our tummy, and now what I didn't mention is this is not really that bitter, but certain plantains, depending on which plantain you pick, it can be a little more bitter, which is an affinity for your digestion, and that it also be with that mucilage and that astringency, it is said to be a pretty good remedy, in fact a really good remedy, for leaky gut syndrome, which is a hole in your gut lining. So obviously astringency, again, like I was saying, will plug up, knit them proteins together in your tummy. That mucus will put a nice healing mucus lining over your stomach there. It also has, and that bitter will help with digestive secretions, and that bile, producing bile and stuff. It'll work a bit like a diuretic as well, so it will work maybe for your kidneys a little bit and stuff. And that brings you onto the urinary tract. So your urinary tract, it will soothe, obviously cooling and soothing as well. Two things, actions are usually cooling, is the mucilage and the bitter principle. So usually cooling and drying, but here we have that unique mucilage with a bitter, a slight bitter and an astringent. Urinary tract, it will help out with urinary tract for the same reasons, cooling and soothing. It is a mucous membrane as well, and that astringency would help with lax sort of menstrual sort of thing, issues and that sort of thing. Yeah. Okay. Now ways you can use this: we can use it in tincture, mind you, with tincture. Tincture I think is good for respiratory. Anyway, if you're taking quite a bit though, you probably want it in a tea form, and I'll just drink that throughout the day in an infusion. Now, one thing to note, you don't want to heat up the plant too much, so bring it way up to boiling too much, otherwise it will destroy the antiseptic quality in it. That's one thing I meant to mention. If you were using the little pot trick for a wound or something that could possibly get infected, you don't want to bring it right up to boil, and that's because that will destroy, I forget the constituent of it, I think it's something to do with anyway, yeah, so that's one pointer I would consider. But I think tea's really good. You can fresh juice the plant. You can eat it, particularly young leaves, but that fibre, it does get a bit fibreish. The taste, I've tasted better things. It's not disgusting or anything like, nothing like that at all, but it is kind of fibreish. It does have that bitter quality to it. Yeah, so let's see, where do we go? Our main affinities for our body is definitely the skin, and very, very versatile. I've used it, we've used it heaps of times with the kids, and I would say, to my knowledge, it's the most versatile wound remedy that you can mix with different things. You know, the important thing is that it's a drawing agent, and and it has that antiseptic quality. In fact, let me just say, there's a little story that I've read and heard about, and this was over in America, to do with black widows. And there's a story that went around that there was 3 women that were doing something, they may have been gardening or something, but they all got bitten by black widows. So I don't know if there was a nest nearby or something like that, or whatever's going on there. One of the women put Plantain on pretty much straight away, from my awareness, and they went to the doctors the next day. 2 of the women died, and the one who didn't pass away was the lady who put Plantain on her. So it's a pretty full-on story in that, but I'll share that and that just to show that how powerful it can be as a drawing agent and drawing out that venom, and this, you know, like, pretty wild stuff. And that's not the only, I've heard of people that are allergic to bees and stuff like that using this and not having to use the EpiPen and that sort of thing. So it's not to be overlooked, and it is a common, really common plant, and it's considered a weed by a lot of things, or people just think it's just a grass and that sort of thing. Really common, that, and really beautiful plant. There is native species to Australia as well, which I haven't seen any that I consider, to my knowledge, as native Australian ones. But this is one of the most important and basic plants to get to know and get to love, and that, you know, because it really is a beautiful plant. What do you reckon? Oh, cool. I think that's about it. Yeah, so the main things: mucilage, astringent, that little bit of bitterness, which will help with digestion, the drawing ability, antiseptic, and it will settle that inflammation as well. It will aid for them soothing sort of ways, help out with that sort of thing. So hope that's an alright run through with Plantain. We really, truly we really love this plant a great deal, and that our family, and we're very familiar with it and stuff. So I think you guys should get to know it too, and wherever you see it, just take note of it and stuff, because it is one of the all-round general gentle healers, and that this guy is not harmful. This is a beautiful plant. Yeah. Anyway, that's about all for now. We'll get back to our day and let you guys do the same. Thank you for watching. I hope you've got a bit out of that. Yeah, and keep an eye out for more videos and that. Okay, I think that's about it from me.
Daddy?
Ciao. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.